I returned a lost wallet to a man everyone fears. 3 days later, his armed guards surrounded my house. Fake feds hunted me, and gunfire nearly killed my son. One honest choice, one dangerous man, and now I'm under his protection whether I want it or not. Before we go any further, beautiful souls, can I ask you something? If this story already has you hooked, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button for K-Pop Tales Studios. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it keeps these powerful stories coming to you every single week. Don't just watch, be part of the family. Now let's dive in. The wallet wasn't supposed to change anything. In a city where survival meant keeping your head down and your business to yourself, Chloe Parkington had perfected the art of invisibility. But the moment her fingers touched that black leather wallet lying on the cracked pavement outside Brew and Bean Coffee House, she became visible to people who dealt in blood and loyalty, not second chances. In a city that never stopped demanding, Chloe Parkington had learned to live on borrowed hours. Between her day shifts at Westview Elder Care and late nights waitressing at Mama Kim's Korean-American diner, she'd forgotten what silence felt like. Her life had become a rhythm she knew by heart, the steady pulse of exhaustion that lived beneath her ribs, keeping time with the hum of the medication cart at dawn and the clatter of ceramic plates after midnight. At 29, Chloe had mastered the choreography of survival, smiling when her feet screamed, nodding when supervisors spoke to her like wallpaper, making Marcus's lunch at 5 a.m. with ingredients stretched across 3 meals, checking her bank account twice before buying dish soap. She moved through Washington, D.C., like a shadow passing through sunlight, noticed only when necessary, forgotten the moment she turned away. Her life was drawn in routines, bills that arrived with clockwork cruelty, school permission slips she signed in the break room between shifts, late buses that smelled like diesel and defeat, and Marcus, always Marcus, her 10-year-old son with eyes too wise for his age, asking questions she didn't have good answers for. Mama, why do good people always have to work twice as hard? She'd kissed his forehead that morning, avoiding the question like she always did, and told him to finish his oatmeal. Now, at 11:43 p.m. on a Thursday that felt like every other Thursday, Chloe stood outside Brew and Bean, her body aching in that deep, bone-tired way that no amount of sleep ever fixed. Rain threatened in the heavy October air. Streetlights buzzed overhead, casting everything in sickly yellow. The last bus home left in 12 minutes. If she missed it, the next one wasn't for another hour. That's when she saw it. A wallet, black leather, expensive looking, lying near the curb like someone had dropped it and kept walking, too important or too careless to notice. Chloe hesitated, her nurse's instinct warring with her survivor's instinct. In D.C., you didn't pick up things that didn't belong to you. You didn't get involved in other people's business. You definitely didn't touch anything that looked like it cost more than your rent. But her feet moved before her mind finished the argument. The leather was soft, buttery, the kind that smelled like money and something darker. Power, maybe. Danger, definitely. She opened it with fingers that had changed bedpans and wiped down tables and somehow still trembled at the weight of what she held. Inside were crisp $100 bills, at least 20 of them, a black card embossed with Korean characters, and an ID that made her breath catch. Sungmin Jang, CEO, Jang Imports. The name hit her like cold water. She'd heard it before, whispered in Korean between the older women at the diner who stopped talking when she came to refill their tea. Mentioned in careful tones by delivery drivers who knew better than to say too much. A businessman, they said. But the way they said it, the way their eyes darted to the door first, told her he was the kind of businessman who dealt in things that never appeared on official paperwork. A man with blood on his hands and a heart colder than his car's, one of the line cooks had muttered once, and nobody corrected him. Chloe should have left it, should have walked away, caught her bus, gone home to Marcus, and pretended she'd never seen it. Instead, she heard her son's voice from last week. They'd been in the grocery store parking lot when he'd found a $20 bill near a shopping cart. "We should keep it, Mama," Marcus had said. eyes bright with the possibility of McDonald's and maybe new markers for school. We need it more than whoever lost it. She'd knelt down right there on the hot asphalt, looked into those hopeful eyes, and said, "Baby, integrity is doing the right thing even when it costs you something, even when nobody's watching. That's what separates us from people who take and take until there's nothing left to give." He'd nodded, solemn, and they'd turned the $20 into customer service. Now, standing under a buzzing streetlight with $2,000 in her hands and a bus leaving in 9 minutes, Chloe made a choice. She pulled out the business card, tucked behind the ID. Jang Imports, 1200 K Street, NW, Suite 3000, downtown. The kind of address that meant marble lobbies and security desks. The kind of place where people like her were only visible when they were mopping floors. Chloe missed her bus. The lobby of Jang Imports was everything she expected and worse. Polished black marble that reflected the recessed lighting like dark water. Minimalist furniture that looked designed to make people uncomfortable. 2 security guards in suits, so sharp they looked like weapons, assessing her with eyes that had seen things her nursing textbooks never covered. "Can I help you?" The taller one's voice was polite, but his posture said he was 3 seconds from escorting her out. "I found something." Chloe's voice was steadier than her pulse. She held up the wallet. "It belongs to Mr. Jang." The guards exchanged a look. Something passed between them, silent, significant. The shorter one picked up a phone, spoke in rapid Korean. "Wallet. Woman. Lobby. 30th floor," he said finally, his expression unreadable. "Someone's expecting you." The elevator rose so smoothly she barely felt it move. Just watched the numbers climb. 5, 10, 15. Each floor taking her further from everything she knew. The doors opened to a space that didn't look like an office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Potomac. Sleek furniture in blacks and grays. 3 men in dark suits positioned like chess pieces, their faces giving away nothing. Then the glass doors at the far end opened, and Chloe forgot how to breathe. Sungmin Jang stepped into the room, and he looked nothing like his ID photo. Mid-30s. Tall. Sharp suit that fit him like a second skin. Dark hair, styled with precision. And tattoos, intricate patterns crawling from beneath his collar like secrets written in ink. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark, not warm, assessing her with an intensity that felt physical. Not threatening. Not yet. But weighing her. Measuring. Trying to understand what kind of person returned $2,000 to a man everyone feared. "You found this." His voice was smooth, controlled, the kind that didn't need volume. "Yes, sir. Outside Brew and Bean on M Street." She held out the wallet, her hand steady now. I looked at the ID to figure out how to return it. He took it, gently, then looked at her like he was trying to decide something important. Most people would have kept the cash. Chloe lifted her chin, exhaustion making her bold. "I'm not most people. I teach my son better than that." For a moment, just a moment, something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or curiosity. Then he nodded once, decisive. "See that she gets home safely," he said to one of his men, his eyes never leaving Chloe's face. The lights flickered. The city hummed beyond the glass. And Chloe felt something invisible shift between them. Respect, curiosity, and something darker she couldn't name. She'd done the right thing. So why did it feel like she'd just walked into a trap she'd never escape? If you're still here, that means this story got you. So here's what I need. Subscribe to K-Pop Tales Studios right now, and drop a comment telling me what time you're watching this. Are you an early bird catching this at sunrise? A night owl like Chloe burning the midnight oil? Let me know down below, and let's see how far this storytelling family reaches. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when those 3 black cars show up outside her house. The call came at 2:17 p.m. the next day, right in the middle of her shift at Westview Elder Care. Chloe had just finished helping Mrs. Chun to the bathroom when her phone buzzed in her scrub's pocket. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Bill collectors had her number memorized, but something made her swipe. Miss Parkington. Not a question. A statement. The voice was deep, controlled, unfamiliar. Mr. Jang would like to thank you in person. This evening. 6 o'clock. Her pulse kicked. I work tonight. Belrose Restaurant. The Potomac waterfront. A car will collect you at 5:45. A pause. It wasn't really a question, Miss Parkington. The line went dead. Chloe stood in the fluorescent hallway, Mrs. Chen's call button already ringing again, and felt that same invisible shift she'd felt last night in that 30th floor office. Like gravity had tilted slightly, and she was sliding towards something she couldn't see but could definitely feel. She should have ignored it. Should have gone to her shift at Mama Kim's and pretended the call never happened. Instead, at 5:30 p.m., she found herself standing outside her duplex in the only dress she owned, a simple black number she'd bought for her grandmother's funeral 3 years ago, watching a black Mercedes pull up to her curb with the silent precision of a shadow. Belrose wasn't a restaurant. It was a statement, all glass and gold and dangerous elegance, perched on the Potomac like a jewel box designed to remind people what wealth actually looked like. The kind of place that didn't advertise didn't need to. If you knew about it, you could afford it. If you couldn't afford it, you'd never hear its name. 2 men in dark suits opened the doors before Chloe could reach them. Inside, the lighting was low, intimate, and the few occupied tables held people who looked like they made decisions that affected thousands of lives before breakfast. Miss Parkington, a hostess who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine, gestured toward the back. Mr. Jang is waiting. He sat by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, the city lights just beginning to glitter in the October dusk. He stood when he saw her, a gesture so unexpectedly polite it made her stumble slightly in her uncomfortable heels. You came. Sungmin Jang looked different in the soft lighting. Less dangerous, somehow, though Chloe knew that was probably a lie. He wore a black shirt, no tie, the tattoos at his collar more visible now. I wasn't sure you would. You didn't really give me a choice. She sat across from him, spine straight, refusing to be intimidated by crystal glasses and leather-bound menus. He smiled slightly. No, I suppose I didn't. A waiter appeared with wine, expensive, French, something Chloe couldn't pronounce, and disappeared just as quickly. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension between them thick enough to touch. Chloe Parkington, Sungmin said finally, swirling his wine. 29, single mother, works at Westview Elder Care, day shift. Mama Kim's Diner nights. Son named Marcus, 10 years old, attends Brookland Elementary. Student loan debt from Georgetown Nursing Program. Dropped out second year. Medical bills from... He paused, something almost gentle crossing his face, from your son's emergency appendectomy 2 years ago. Chloe's blood went cold, then hot. You had no right. I had every right. His voice never rose, but it cut clean. You walked into my building. You returned something valuable. That means you're either honest or very, very smart. I needed to know which. And her hands clenched in her lap. Honest. He slid a cream envelope across the table, which is rare in my world, Miss Parkington. She didn't touch it. I didn't do it for money. I know. He leaned back, studying her with those dark, unreadable eyes. That's exactly why I'm giving it to you. Consider it protection. Protection from what? From the consequences of being seen by me. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Chloe stared at him, trying to understand, but he was already standing, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. Enjoy your dinner. Order anything. My driver will take you home. He placed a business card on top of the envelope. If anything unusual happens, anything at all, you call that number. What kind of unusual? Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, but he was already walking away, his men materializing from the shadows to follow him out into the night. Chloe didn't touch the food. She took the envelope, told herself it was just to throw it away later, and let the silent driver take her home. But she noticed things on the drive. The way he checked his mirrors, the the black sedan that followed 3 cars back. The way he didn't pull away until she was inside with the door locked. The next morning, the black car was still there, parked down the street, engine off, windows tinted dark. She told herself it was paranoia, told herself she was imagining things. Then, at 11:34 p.m., Mrs. Patterson's window, 3 doors down shattered. An accident, probably. Kids with rocks, maybe. But when Chloe ran to her own window, heart hammering, the black car hadn't moved, hadn't even turned on its headlights. It just sat there, watching. Now, at 2 a.m., Chloe sat in the darkness of Marcus's room, listening to her son's steady breathing, clutching the envelope she'd sworn she wouldn't open. Inside was $5,000 in crisp bills and a handwritten note in elegant script. For being honest in a dishonest city, you're safer than you think. S.J. But Chloe didn't feel safe. She felt like a piece on a chessboard she didn't understand, moved by hands she couldn't see. Outside, the black car's engine finally started, and it pulled away into the night like a promise or a threat. She'd done the right thing. So, why did it feel like she'd just declared war on a world she didn't even know existed? 3 days passed like held breath. Chloe went to work, came home, checked on Marcus, pretended the black car that appeared and disappeared from her street at irregular intervals was just her imagination working overtime. She didn't touch the $5,000, didn't call the number on Sungmin's card, just folded the envelope into the bottom of her underwear drawer and tried to forget it existed. But forgetting was impossible when you could feel eyes on you everywhere you went. It was Thursday afternoon when everything changed. Chloe had just left Westview Elder Care, her feet aching, her mind already running through the evening's calculations. Pick up Marcus from the community center by 6, start dinner, maybe finish the load of laundry she'd abandoned 2 days ago. The October air had turned cold, sharp enough to sting her cheeks as she walked toward the bus stop. That's when the blue sedan pulled up beside her. Clean, American-made, government-looking in that specific way that made it impossible to ignore. 2 men in suits stepped out, not the expensive tailored kind Sungmin's men wore, but the off-the-rack federal employee kind. One was tall, white with graying temples. The other shorter, black, with kind eyes that didn't match his posture. Miss Parkington. The tall one smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm Agent Morrison. This is Agent Hayes. Treasury Department. Mind if we ask you a few questions? Chloe's stomach dropped. She looked around. The street was busy enough. People walking past. Cars idling at the light. Public. Safe. What's this about? She kept her purse close, feet planted. Sungmin Jang. Agent Hayes pulled out a badge, flashed it just long enough for her to see the seal, but not read the details. We understand you met with him recently, returned his wallet, had dinner at his restaurant. The way he said it made it sound dirty, suspicious. I found his wallet and returned it. That's all. That's all. Morrison stepped closer, his smile widening. Miss Parkington, that wallet contained more than cash. Import documents, classified materials related to an ongoing federal investigation into money laundering operations tied to several city officials. Chloe's pulse hammered. I didn't see any documents. Just cash and his ID. Maybe not. Hayes's voice was gentler, almost sympathetic. But Mr. Jang doesn't know that. Men like him, they don't trust anyone. And when someone gets close to information they shouldn't have... He let the sentence hang, heavy with implication. Morrison pulled out a business card, pressed it into her hand. If anything unusual happens, anything at all, you call us immediately. Day or night. We can protect you. Protect me from what? Her voice cracked. I didn't do anything wrong. We know. Hayes touched her shoulder briefly and she flinched. But in Jang's world, innocent people become liabilities. We just want to make sure you and your son stay safe. They got back in the sedan and drove away, leaving Chloe standing on the sidewalk with a business card burning in her palm and fear turning her blood to ice. She checked her purse 4 times on the bus ride home. The card was there. Then it wasn't. Then maybe it had fallen out. Then maybe she'd imagined the whole thing. By the time she picked up Marcus from the community center, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel of their beat-up Honda Civic. "You okay, Mama?" Marcus looked at her with those two wise eyes. "Just tired, baby." She forced a smile. "Just tired." But when they turned onto their street at 5:47 p.m., tired was the last thing she felt. 3 black cars sat in front of her house, not parked, positioned, like pieces on a chessboard, engines idling in perfect synchronization. Neighbors had come out onto their porches, Mrs. Patterson with her arms crossed, the Rodriguez family peering through their curtains. Old Mr. Kim standing in his driveway with his phone out like he was deciding whether to call the police. Chloe's foot hit the brake. The Civic jerked to a stop 2 houses down. "Mama." Marcus's voice went small. "What's happening?" Then the doors opened. 6 men stepped out in perfect formation. Dark suits, expressionless faces, moving with the kind of discipline that screamed military training. They didn't look around, didn't acknowledge the staring neighbors, just stood there, a wall of silent intimidation. And then the middle car's rear door opened. Sungmin Jang stepped onto her quiet suburban street, like he owned it, probably did, in ways that didn't show up on property records. The afternoon sun caught the tattoos at his throat, turned them into shadows and light. His expression was unreadable, not angry, not concerned, just present, absolute. Chloe's breath stopped. "Stay in the car," she told Marcus, her voice barely working. "But stay in the car." She got out on legs that felt like water, forcing herself to walk toward her own house, toward the man who'd somehow turned her life into something she didn't recognize anymore. Sungmin's eyes found hers across the distance. He didn't move, didn't speak, just waited. The neighborhood held its breath with her. And then Marcus's voice cut through the silence, small and scared and so young. "Mom, who are they?" Real quick, if you're hooked on Chloe's story and you haven't subscribed to K-Pop Tales Studios yet, what are you waiting for? It's literally free, takes 2 seconds, and it's the only way to make sure you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. New York? Tokyo? London? Let's see how global this family really is. Now back to the story. Chloe forced herself to keep walking, even as her legs threatened to buckle. Marcus's question hung in the air like smoke, unanswered, unanswerable. Sungmin met her halfway up her cracked driveway, his men forming a perimeter that turned her modest duplex into a fortress. Up close, she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes scanned the street with practiced efficiency. "You were visited," he said without preamble. 2 men, blue sedan. They claimed to be federal agents. Her breath caught. "How did you?" "They weren't federal." His voice was flat, certain. "They work for people who want what I lost. The documents in that wallet." "I didn't see any documents." "I know." Something flickered in his expression. "But they think you did. That puts you and your son in danger." Chloe's world tilted. Behind her, Marcus had cracked the car door open, watching with wide eyes. Mrs. Patterson was definitely filming now. This would be all over the neighborhood Facebook group within the hour. "What do you want from me?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "Nothing. You've already done enough." He glanced at her house, at the faded siding and the screen door that didn't quite close right. "But I can't leave you here unprotected. Pack a bag. Both of you. You'll stay at one of my properties until this is resolved." "I'm not running away with she caught herself, but barely. "With a gangster." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Smart. But those men will come back, Miss Parkington. And next time, they won't ask polite questions. Why do you even care?" The question burst out before she could stop it. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Really looked at her, the way he had in his office, like he was trying to understand something fundamental about who she was. "Because you returned my wallet when you could have stolen from me," he said quietly. "You earned my respect. and that comes with consequences. The safe house wasn't what Chloe expected. Minimalist. Clean lines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Potomac that made her feel exposed and protected simultaneously. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that looked like it had never been used, furniture that was functional but soulless. Marcus clung to her side, his backpack clutched in both hands, taking in the armed men stationed at every entrance. "It's temporary," Sungmin said, watching her face. "A week, maybe 2. And then what?" "Then the people looking for you will have moved on to easier targets." That night, after she'd gotten Marcus to sleep in the smaller bedroom, his nightlight plugged in, his Spider-Man blanket from home wrapped around him like armor, Chloe found Sungmin in the kitchen. He was cooking. Actually cooking, not reheating takeout. The smell of garlic and sesame oil filled the space, almost normal, almost like this was just a regular Thursday instead of her life falling apart. "You cook." She leaned against the doorframe, exhausted beyond words. "My grandmother insisted." He didn't look up from the pan, said a man who couldn't feed himself was only half a man. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the 6 armed guards outside, Chloe laughed. A real laugh, the kind she hadn't heard from herself in months. He glanced at her, something softening in his expression. "You should do that more often. Laugh while being held captive by the Korean Mafia." "Protected by," he corrected. "There's a difference." They ate in silence, but it was different now. Less hostile, more human. "You act like you don't trust anyone," Chloe said finally, pushing rice around her plate. "Trust is a currency," Sungmin replied. "You don't spend it twice." She wanted to ask what that meant, wanted to understand this man who'd turned her world upside down with his dangerous honor. But before she could, the windows exploded. Glass shattered inward. Gunfire cracked the night. Marcus screamed from the bedroom. Sungmin moved faster than thought, pulling Chloe to the floor, his body covering hers as his men returned fire with brutal efficiency. The noise was deafening, sharp cracks, shouted commands in Korean, the wet sound of bullets finding flesh. Then silence, sudden and complete. Sungmin lifted his head, checked her for injuries with hands that were surprisingly gentle. "Stay down." But Chloe was already crawling toward Marcus's room, maternal instinct overriding survival. She found him under the bed, unhurt but sobbing, and pulled him into her arms. When she finally stood, legs shaking, Sungmin was by the broken windows. 2 bodies lay in the courtyard below. His men were already moving them, efficient as shadows. He turned to her, glass crunching under his expensive shoes, and in his eyes she saw something that made her blood run cold. Not violence, not anger, certainty. "Those men from the blue sedan," he said quietly, "they weren't investigating me. They were hunting you." Chloe held Marcus tighter, her son's tears soaking into her shirt. "Now do you believe me?" Before we go any further, if you're on the edge of your seat right now and you still haven't hit that subscribe button for K-Pop Tale Studios, I need you to ask yourself why. This is the good part. This is where everything changes. Subscribe now. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from, and let's keep this story going together. The safe house felt different after the gunfire. Colder, more real, like the illusion of safety had shattered along with the windows. Marcus finally fell asleep near dawn, exhausted from crying, curled against Chloe on the leather couch with his Spider-Man blanket wrapped tight. She held him and watched the sun rise over the Potomac, painting the water gold and red, while Sungmin's men replaced the glass with efficiency that suggested this wasn't their first time. Sungmin sat across from her, still in his blood-spattered shirt, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. "You deserve the truth," he said finally. Chloe waited, her hand stroking Marcus's hair, her heart still hammering from hours ago. "The documents in my wallet, they were proof. Evidence that 3 city council members and a federal prosecutor have been using Jang imports as a front for laundering campaign funds from foreign interests." His voice was flat, clinical, like he was discussing inventory. I was gathering evidence to expose them. They found out and decided to frame me instead. Make me the fall guy. So you're not? Oh, I'm exactly what people say I am, he interrupted, that slight smile ghosting his lips. I've done things that would make you leave this room and never look back. But I don't hurt innocent people. I just make sure the powerful ones remember what fear tastes like. Chloe studied his face, the tattoos, the exhaustion, the weight he carried like armor. Then why not go to the real authorities? Because half of them are on the payroll of the people I'm trying to expose. He set down the untouched whiskey. You think I'm a criminal. You're right, but I'm the one keeping worse men from burning this city to the ground. The silence stretched between them, heavy with truth and consequences. My sister, Sungmin said quietly, and Chloe heard something break in his voice. She was 22. Pre-med, brilliant. She witnessed something she shouldn't have. Corrupt officials meeting with traffickers. They killed her to keep her quiet, made it look like a robbery. His eyes met Chloe's. She was innocent, just in the wrong place, and I couldn't protect her. Understanding crashed through Chloe like a wave. That's why you care. About me and Marcus. He nodded once. I won't let another innocent person get caught in crossfire. Not while I can prevent it. Hold up. If this story is hitting you in the chest right now, if you're feeling what Chloe's feeling, then I need you to do something. Subscribe to K-Pop Tale Studios if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me, do you think Sungmin is a hero or a villain? Is Chloe right to trust him? I need to know what you think. Don't just watch. Be part of the conversation. Now, let's finish this. By 9 a.m., Sungmin's men had packed their things. By 10, the black cars were pulling away from the safe house, silent as they'd arrived. By 11, Chloe and Marcus were back home, standing in their small duplex that felt both familiar and foreign. But one car remained, parked at the curb like a dark promise, engine off, windows tinted. Chloe found the envelope on her kitchen counter. She hadn't seen anyone place it there, but somehow it didn't surprise her. Inside, a black card with gold embossing, a phone number, and a note in that elegant handwriting. For emergencies, you don't owe me anything, but you're under my protection now. That doesn't end. SJ. She turned it over. On the back, just 2 more words. Stay safe. Marcus appeared at her elbow, still wearing his backpack like he wasn't sure if they were staying or running again. He looked out the window at the car, at the man in the dark suit leaning against it. The man saw Marcus watching and did something unexpected. He smiled, a real smile, and waved. Marcus waved back, tentative but genuine. Chloe exhaled, truly exhaled, for the first time in 4 days. Her life would never return to what it was. The wallet, the dinner, the gunfire, the truth, it had all changed something fundamental in her world. But standing in her small kitchen with her son safe beside her and a promise of protection waiting outside, Chloe realized something else had changed too. She felt seen, not invisible, not just another exhausted single mother, drowning in bills and broken dreams. Seen, protected, valued, by a man who dealt in shadows and violence, yes, but also in honor and fierce, uncompromising loyalty to those who earned it. She tucked the card into her pocket, pulled Marcus close, and whispered, "We're okay, baby. We're going to be okay." Outside, the guard returned to his post. The neighborhood continued its morning routine. And Chloe Parkington learned something her mother had never taught her. Sometimes doing the right thing means crossing paths with the wrong kind of people, and realizing not all of them are monsters. Some of them are just men trying to protect the things that matter, even if the world will never understand why.
That's where we leave Chloe and Sungmin for now. But this story isn't over, not by a long shot. If you want to see what happens next, you know what to do. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs a good story today. And drop a comment. Seriously, I read every single one. Tell me, Team Sungmin or nah? Let's talk. Until next time, beautiful souls.